Listen.
Bienvenue. I am delighted to welcome my dear friend, President Sarkozy, to the White House. And I also want to welcome to the United States the First Lady of France. And Michelle and I are very much looking forward to hosting our guests at dinner this evening. Now, I have to point out that the French are properly famous for their cuisine. And so the fact that Nicolas went to Ben's Chili Bowl for lunch, I think shows his discriminating palate. My understanding is he had a half smoke. So he was sampling the local wares, and we appreciate that very much. This visit is an opportunity to return the hospitality that the President and the French people have shown to me during my visits to France. And that includes our family's wonderful visit to Paris last summer. And Michelle and I will never forget the opportunity to introduce our daughters for the first time to the City of Lights. And I don't think that Sasha will ever forget celebrating her 8th birthday at the Élysée Palace with the President of France. That's a pretty fancy way for an 8-year-old to spend their birthday. Today, President Sarkozy and I have reaffirmed the enduring ties between our countries. France is our oldest ally and one of our closest. We are two great republics bound by common ideals that have stood together for more than 2 centuries, from Yorktown to Normandy to Afghanistan. Under President Sarkozy's leadership, France has further secured its rightful place as a leader in Europe and around the world, recognizing that meeting global challenges requires global partnerships. France took the historic step of returning to NATO's military command, and we are working to revitalize our transatlantic bonds, including a strong, capable European Union, which the United States firmly supports. Because a close transatlantic partnership is critical to progress, whether it's applying our combined strength to promote development and confront violent extremism in Africa, or reconstruction in Haiti, or advancing peace from the Caucasus to the Middle East. Mr. President, on behalf of the American people, I also want to thank you for your personal efforts to strengthen the partnership between our countries. We first met 4 years ago. I was a senator then. Nicolas was still running for president at the time, and I immediately came to admire your legendary energy and your enthusiasm for what our countries can achieve together. And that was the spirit of your eloquent speech to Congress 3 years ago, which deeply moved many Americans. Over the past year, the President and I have worked closely on numerous occasions. We respect one another and understand one another, and we share a belief that through bold yet pragmatic action, our generation can bend the arc of history towards justice and towards progress. And this shared commitment to solving problems allowed us to advance our common interests today. We agreed to continue working aggressively to sustain the global economic recovery and create jobs for our people. And this includes, as we agreed with our G20 partners at Pittsburgh, to replacing the old cycle of bubble and bust with growth that is balanced and sustained. And this requires effective coordination by all nations. To that end, I updated the President on our efforts to pass financial reform. And I look forward to the Senate taking action on this landmark legislation so we never repeat the mistakes that led to this crisis. We must provide sufficient oversight so that reckless speculation or reckless risk-taking by a few big players in the financial markets will never again threaten the global economy or burden taxpayers. We must assure that consumers of financial products have the information and safeguards that they need so that their life savings are not placed in needless jeopardy. And that's why I press for the passage of these reforms through Congress when they return, and I will continue to work with President Sarkozy and other world leaders to coordinate our efforts, because we want to make sure that whatever steps we're taking, they are occurring on both sides of the Atlantic. We agreed that sustained and balanced growth includes rejecting protectionism. France is one of our largest trading partners, and we need to expand global commerce, not constrain it. With that regard, we think it's important that Doha trade negotiations move forward this year, and we need all interested parties to push for a more ambitious and balanced agreement that opens global markets, and we look forward to France's presidency of both the G8 and G20 next year. So Nicolas is going to be very busy. To address climate change, we agreed that all nations aligned with the Copenhagen Accord must meet their responsibilities. And I would note that President Sarkozy's leadership has resulted in significant new resources to address deforestation around the world. Upcoming meetings of the United Nations and the Major Economies Forum will be an opportunity for nations to follow up their Copenhagen commitments with specific and concrete actions that reduce emissions. We reaffirmed our commitment to confront the greatest threat to global security, the spread of nuclear weapons, and I updated President Sarkozy on our new START treaty with Russia. I look forward to welcoming President Sarkozy back to Washington in 2 weeks for our summit on securing vulnerable nuclear materials so that they never fall into the hands of terrorists. We discussed our shared determination to prevent Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons. On this, the United States and France are united, are inseparable. With our P5+1 partners, we offer Iran good faith proposals to resolve this matter through diplomacy. But Iran thus far has rejected those offers. Today, the international community is more united than ever on the need for Iran to uphold its obligations. And that's why we're pursuing strong sanctions through the UN Security Council. And finally, we discussed our efforts to advance security and peace around the world, including in the Middle East, where we agree that all sides need to act now to create the atmosphere that gives the proximity talks the best chance to succeed. I shared my impressions from my discussions with President Karzai on the urgent need for good government and development in Afghanistan. As I told our troops, we salute our coalition partners, and that includes France, which is one of the largest contributors to the NATO mission and which has given its most precious resource, the lives of its young men and women, to a mission that is vital to the security of both our countries and the world's security. So I thank President Sarkozy for his visit and for the progress that our countries have made today, in large part because of his extraordinary leadership. We are global partners facing global challenges together, and I think that Nicolas will agree that when it comes to America's oldest ally, we've never been closer. So I'll simply close with words that one American leader expressed to another French partner more than 200 years ago, because Washington's words to Rochambeau reflect the bonds between our countries today. We are fellow laborers in the cause of liberty, and we have lived together as brothers should do, in harmonious friendship. In that spirit, I welcome President Nicolas Sarkozy.
Merci.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for your invitation. I think that we can say I stand to be corrected by Bernard Kouchner and Christine Lagarde, but I think we can say that rarely in the history of our two countries has the community of views been so identical between the United States of America and France. To wit, one example, which is that France would not be stepping next year into the presidency of the G20 had the United States of America not supported France for this presidency. Now, there are the words, there are the statements, and then there are the facts, the acts, and that is a fact. Now, I will not repeat what President Obama so eloquently said on Afghanistan. We support President Obama's strategy. We cannot afford to lose, not for us, not for ourselves, but for Afghanistan and for the people of Afghanistan who are entitled to live in freedom. Of course, that the road is arduous. Of course, nothing can be anticipated. And of course, we are so sorrowful for the loss of young lives. But we have to have the courage to go to the end of our strategy and explain that there is no alternative strategy. Defeat would be too high a price for the security of American Europeans. By fighting in Afghanistan, what we are fighting for is world security, quite simply. Now, on Iran, I am very satisfied with what President Obama has said. The time has come to take decisions. Iran cannot continue its mad race. Now, we don't want to punish Iran, which deserves better.